Good afternoon. It's Monday. I wish I could sing. Man, did y'all enjoy verses last night? Bless my little young old soul. So true story. True story. When Tiara and I got married, I wanted to get married in a pantsuit. And Tiara didn't care a lot about what I did with the wedding. But he vetoed that idea so hard. That was the one thing that he came in and was like, absolutely not. But the pantsuits that they was rocking, girlfriend, ooh, I was like, I would have had a fly pantsuit for my wedding, yo. Bless my little young old soul, okay? It's 4:30, it's Monday. Yesterday was my birthday. I am 35 years on this earth. Yay me. And Gladys and Patty sang me happy birthday. Well, they didn't actually technically sing anybody happy birthday, but they had a verses for my birthday. That's what I'm telling myself. That was for me. So, bam, there it is. Give it a couple of seconds for people to get on in here, for those that are coming. All right. Well, as I've already alluded, I thoroughly enjoyed myself last night. I love Patty. I love Gladys too, don't get me wrong. Gladys is just a little bit before my, well, I guess technically Patty's before my generation too, but Patty's a little bit closer to my generation. Patty's cover of I Can't Make You Love Me, whew, got me through some things in college. My little young broken heart got me, and I really wish they had covered that one on Versus, but I played that on repeat last night. That was my jam. That and them pantsuits, it made me so happy. But yes, today we are going to talk about pressing through in the face of adversity. Yes, it has been a time. It has been a time. It has been a time. 2020 has been a time. Ooh, it has been a time. I'm laughing. It's not a nervous laughter. I'm laughing because I don't know what else to say outside of it's been a time. If you haven't been keeping up with the news, the current president of the United States issued a directive to stop diversity trainings for the federal government, saying that they were divisive and were causing harm and division. Now, in general, I would say in the grand scheme, I think that the way a lot of diversity trainings are implemented actually don't do a lot of good because they serve to essentially check a box and don't actually challenge the status quo. It just kind of serves to say a checklist of the things that you can't do, not actually challenge structural and systemic issues. But that's not what he was saying. I'm gonna be very clear. That's not what he was saying. And so I think right now we're seeing a very public backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion work in a way that hasn't been deemed, what's the word I'm looking for, socially acceptable before. I think the people that have been, there's always been people that have been decrying diversity, DEI work, but those people, as DEI work became more and more acceptable, a lot of people have relegated those people as like, oh, those are ignorant people, those are blah, 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 blah people. They don't know any better. They don't know anything. They're just ignorant. And I think that this very public and prominent statement and action has caused a lot of people to pause. I don't, for me, not so much. Like I said, I've always kind of had issues on the grander scheme with how diversity training has been done, especially in corporate America, even within schools, because again, it doesn't really challenge the status quo. A lot of it is really centered on interpersonal work. And again, interpersonal work is important, but we cannot change structural and systemic issues if all we ever stay is in the interpersonal and people's feelings and emotions. Like, we can't tackle systemic if all we're ever worried about are your feelings and the interpersonal work that you need to do. I think a lot of people that are in this field are feeling disheartened in the work, especially because it feels like right now it's just one thing after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And I think that it's an interesting place and space to be in, because it's always been one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. But people have been allowed to distract themselves and to give into those distractions. Sometimes those distractions are very necessary in terms of self-preservation, especially if you're a person of color or a marginalized identity, to consistently be faced with your oppression on a day-to-day piece eats away at your soul. And so you need distraction. That is a way of self-care. For other people who have positions of power, that distraction gives some people a way out of, instead of addressing the actual issues at play. And right now what's happening with the pandemic is there's not a lot of distractions. So you have no choice but to really focus on the over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it is exhausting and tiring, and it wears you out. And it feels like there's no reprieve. And so how do you get up and do this work every day in the face of that? How do you push forward in the face of adversity? How do you do this when it feels like you are making very, 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 very incremental progress? And I would say that it looks different for different people. You have to find your own personal motivation of why you do it, right? Like, for me, I know that the work that I do, particularly because I am rooted in middle school, right? Like, middle school is a time most people choose to forget. I don't get kids coming back to me and they're like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like, most people want to forget their time in middle school. And when you hear the people doing their speeches and things, of course, it's like the kindergarten teachers or the elementary school teachers or the high school teachers. Rarely is it the middle school teachers, and that's okay. I think I know middle school is the best place for me. It's the best place they're in this really weird place and space and time of like, I'm not a small child, but I'm not a big child, and I'm weird and funky, and I don't know what I want, and I don't know what I want to do, and I just, everything is angsty, and I hate life, but I love life, and I don't know, and it's perfect for me. And I enjoy the mess out of it, and I enjoy the mess out of those kids, even though they get on my last nerves at the same time. It's great. That's why I fit right in with them. I'm just as angsty as them, like, that being said, that's where I find my joy, right? Like, I know that I am planting seeds and I have no idea what's going to grow, right? Like, just out here throwing seeds around, and that's my calling. Someone else is going to tend to the garden. My job is to plant, and you have to find the peace in the process that brings you joy, and the peace in the process that brings you peace, and stick to that and find that, right? And so I really particularly enjoy different aspects of teaching middle school, right? So like in specifically 7th grade, I really, really love working with 7th graders and talking about personal identity and helping them to think about the who and the what and the why of their identity. And knowing that so much of that is going to change. Like, by the time they get to 9th grade, a lot of the stuff that they write will have changed, but just having them think critically and instilling that critical thinking within them, that piece is what's important, that skill building, right? Even though the answers will change, that process is what's important for them. And that's where I find my joy, right? That's how I face the adversity of, a lot of these kids will never remember me. I don't remember a lot of my middle school teachers. I don't, but the ones that I do are the ones, I don't necessarily remember them for the content of like, oh, you taught me how to be a better student of English or liter or whatever. I remember Miss Sasser, who was my 6th grade science teacher, and she was a black lady. I think she was the only black science teacher that I ever had in my entire career. And I remember it was the first day of class, and it's an activity that I actually do with my kids to this day. Like, this is how much this activity impacted me, right? This is her sowing seeds. She told us to draw a scientist. So I drew a scientist. I drew a black girl that had purple hair streaks. I drew like a version of me. I always wanted purple hair streaks. I never had purple hair streaks, but my mother would have killed me. But that's what I wanted in 6th grade. I thought that was cool. And I vividly remember her giving this speech of like, you should have drawn yourselves because you were scientists. Why did y'all draw these white men? Why did y'all draw da 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 da? Like, who told you to be a scientist? You have to be this. You should have drawn yourselves. And particularly, I don't teach straight history anymore. But when I taught history, just straight history, I used to really enjoy that activity because the kids would always draw old white men with monocles and top hats. And I, like, who wears a monocle nowadays? Like, where are these kids getting monocles? Like, all these kids are born in like 2003, 2005. Who have they seen that wears a monocle? No idea. All monocles. Every single one of them. Well, not every single one, but the majority of them. So like and we talked about media and bias. And so it opened up so many doors for us to talk about so many different things of like, so where do we get this image that a historian wears a monocle and that historians are white men? And like, what does that tell us about our society and who has access and who has authority and how we see ourselves in this, right? And I got that back in 1996 from Miss Sasser at Lincoln College Preparatory Academy in Kansas City, Missouri, public schools, right? And that is something that I have carried with me into 2020. That is the impact that that woman had on me. And like, that's how we face adversity and push forward, is knowing that those are the things. And I don't know if I'll ever see Miss Sasser again, but God bless that woman, and God bless all of those teachers who have had those moments that I can remember and those that I can't, that have like buried themselves deep and that spring up in different points in times, and times that I can name, like I can name that with Miss Sasser, and other times that I can't, that I think that I geniusly came up with. But you know, it's not, it's inspired by or directly stolen from, and I just don't know that I stole it, from these different people who have impacted me over the years, right? Like, that's how I find the strength and the joy and the ability to push through in the face of adversity, because I know the impact on the other side of it, because I am the proof of the impact, right? Like, sitting in 6th grade, no clue that that thing was gonna sit and land, and that I was gonna do this to all the kids that I've taught. But look at me, here it is. It is what it is. I don't know if any of the kids that I teach will ever be teachers. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll do it. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe it's some other thing they'll do. I did this activity with making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches today with the kids about writing directions. Maybe that's something that will stick with the kids. I don't know. And it's not per se for me to know. Like, I would love to know for my own self-gratification, because of course. But I know on my end the impact that these different phenomenal educators have had on me. And I also know on the opposite end of several educators who were not good, who did not have my best interest in mind, and the impact that they had, and the work and mitigation that my parents had to do to make sure that they did not harm and scar me, and deter me from what I wanted to do. And so just knowing that power that I have as an educator to just instill something so small as a seed, and that thing can uproot years later, and that person have no idea where that came from. And hopefully the majority of what I've planted is positive. And I know that I've made mistakes, because I am human, and I've been young, and I've been dumb, and I've done things. But, you know, as I grow, I get better and better. But the overwhelming majority of the work that I've done, I pray, is positive and purposeful. Well, I believe it's purposeful. And that it springs forth in ways that I can't even begin to imagine. And it reminds me of the Tupac quote of, like, I'm not going to be the mind that changes the world, but I'm going to inspire the mind that will. And that's really my hope for my legacy, right? Like, it's not my job to change the world. That's not my calling. Like, that's not who I am. But I pray that I have an impact on a person that will, and that I impact them in a positive way to make a positive change on the world, especially given the kids that I work with, and given the work that I do with the anti-bias educator, particularly these schools that I work with, and the access to the kids that they have, which is why I take the work so seriously, right? And sometimes I'm not moving as fast as I want to move, and that is incredibly frustrating, right? That's what actually sparked this topic. It wasn't even, I talked about the Trump thing because I felt like that would be more of an access point for a lot of people, but that wasn't even what sparked it for me. It's my own feeling frustration because I'm not making as much progress with the business as I want, because I'm so intentional about how I'm putting things out there, because I don't want someone to do something based off of the things that I said or advocated for, and it's the wrong thing. And then I know, right? Like, I know, like, oh, this is what I told you to do, and you did it, and then that's what happened. Ooh, my bad. Because I've done that. Like, I've come in loud and wrong and strong, thinking that was what was best, right? Like, you know, and we know intentions, while useful, do not mitigate impact. No, they do not. They do not. It does not undo the damage that you caused. So that is, just because you're passionate about something does not erase the harm that you caused. Does not how that works. So I grow frustrated with myself and my progress at times, because I'm not moving as fast as I personally would like to. Definitely not as fast as I'm seeing other people move, and I'm just like, oh my God, like look at them, look at that, look at dude. What? I could be out here. Whew. And recognizing, like, going back to that place and knowing, like, it's a seed. And when that seed is ready, it will sprout and it will take root. And that's just, I gotta apply that same ideology to the business, because the business is a seed too. So yeah, that's my joy and my wisdom, my seed planting for the day. I don't know where that accent came from. Okay. All right. That's all I got. Just wanted to share that with you all. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. We are in week 2. Things are happening. They going. It's gonna be a year. It's gonna be a year. But I'm planting. I'm planting. And what's gonna grow is what's gonna grow. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. As always, I'll be back next Monday, 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central. I guess I should be giving my contact information in here, since I'm starting to post this on other platforms. That would be helpful. You can reach me at Stephanie at the antibiaseducator.com. You can also reach me on Twitter at the antibiasedu. And you can reach me on Instagram at the antibiaseducator. The website's still coming, still working on it. My original website, StephanieTellis.com, is still up. I haven't revamped it yet, so you can technically still reach me on there. We gonna get that together after we get the antibiaseducator.com. But that's in the works. That's coming. Course is still coming. Things are happening. Webinars coming out. Things is working. We working on it. We planning. Just bear with you, girl. All right. Y'all have a great week. I'll see you next Monday.